So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Medical Physics Noon seminar. It is my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished speakers today, and who are joining us from the International Collaboration on Repair Discoveries, or ICORD, at the University of British Columbia. So please welcome Cheryl and Corree, who have co-founded the seed2STEM program, which is an inspiring and impactful initiative dedicated to increasing the Indigenous participation in STEM fields. Cheryl holds a Bachelor in Fine Arts in Creative Writing from the UBC and has been a dedicated staff member of the university for over 30 years. In her role as Communications and Administrative Manager for the International Collaboration on Repair Discoveries, where she is responsible for the Research Center's HR communications and events, along with Corree, she co-founded the organization seed2STEM program in 2018. And Corree is a physicist with a PhD and professor in the UBC Department of Radiology, Pathology, and Laboratory Medicine and Physics and Astronomy. And she serves as a vice chair of research in radiology, and she's a director of the UBC MRI Research Center and an associate director of education and training at the International Collaboration on Repair Discoveries. Alongside her scientific expertise, she is passionate about advocating for the diversity and inclusion in the STEM fields, and with a particular focus on advancing opportunities for women in the Indigenous peoples. So together, Cheryl and Corree will lead the seed2STEM, a reconciliACTIONable model that engages Indigenous high school students through paid, hands-on STEM research internships, mentorships, and wraparound supports that help remove barriers to participation. Since 2018, the program has worked with over 140 students and 112 faculty members across multiple campuses and hospital sites. Its success is evident not only in the high rates of student engagement and transition into the STEM post-secondary studies, but also in its ability to create a supportive community that integrates mentorship, cultural relevance, and research training. So the presentation today is titled seed2STEM, a reconciliACTIONable model for increasing Indigenous participation in STEM. So this will highlight both the structure and the impact of this innovative program, as well as the lessons it offers for building a more diverse and inclusive STEM community. Welcome, Cheryl and Corree, and I'll let you start your presentation.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And yes, the word reconciliACTIONable is kind of a word that has been conglomerated together, not by us. We can't take credit for it, but it is a tricky one to pronounce. So thank you so much for inviting us to be here. We're really excited to tell you about seed2STEM, which has been our passion project for the better part of 7 years, more than 7 years. So yeah, we're really cool. Really happy to be telling you about it, and hopefully inspiring some of your members to think about starting a similar program, or what sort of actionable items people can take to contribute towards reconciliation. So just starting off with some learning objectives for the next 40 minutes or so. The first is to become familiar with the underrepresentation of Indigenous people in STEM fields. The second is to review the history of the Seed2STEM program. And then the third is to understand how to create space for Indigenous youth in your own research program, in your own departments, and in your own university. So starting out with recognizing the fact that seed2STEM takes place on the traditional unceded and ancestral territories of both the Syilx Okanagan Nation, as we have students at UBC Okanagan and in Kelowna, and then the Coast Salish people, which is colonially known as Vancouver, Metro Vancouver region, which is the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. Neither Cheryl nor myself are Indigenous. I'm a settler to Canada. I was born in Germany, and we moved to a small town called Lumbee, which is on the traditional territories of the Selks Okanagan Nation, when I was really small. And then I moved to Vancouver, on the Coast Salish territories, to attend university, and that's where I am still here. So as mentioned in the introduction, I'm a professor at UBC. For my research, I do brain and spinal cord MRI, but really this part of my I guess work portfolio and life portfolio is the thing that I'm most passionate about. And so I started the program with Cheryl in 2018.
My name is Cheryl. I was born in Richmond, BC, which is, if you've ever been to Vancouver, that's where the airport is, and that is on Musqueam territory. My mother's family came to Canada 3 generations ago from various parts of Western Europe, and my dad moved to Vancouver to go to UBC from Trinidad in the 1950s. I am, as Corree mentioned, I'm the communications and admin manager for ICORD, which is an interdisciplinary spinal cord injury research center. We're part of the UBC Faculty of Medicine and Vancouver Coastal Health Research Institute. And I've co-chaired and co-organized seed2STEM with Corree since 2018. So we just did a land acknowledgement. You probably do these too when you give talks or have meetings or events. Some of us have read about the history of the Indigenous people in Canada, the things that happened, historical inequities, racism, all those things. You might be wondering what tangible things you can do about reconciliation, to support reconciliation. And that's kind of where Corree and I were in 2018. We were on a faculty search committee, and here at UBC, before you even get to look at CVs, we get a talk from the VP of Human Resources for the entire university. They come in and talk about equity in hiring and consideration of Indigenous candidates. And we both, in our heads, were thinking, we were talking, another committee member said, wouldn't it be great if there was an Indigenous candidate who would be perfect for this job? And Corree and I both thought, we don't even know any Indigenous grad students in neuroscience. So where is a faculty candidate going to come from? So we looked into this further. And this table shows data from the 2021 census, but it was very similar in 2018 when we were first looking into it. We discovered or learned that 4.5% of people who identify as Indigenous have a post-secondary degree in a STEM field, and that's compared to 11.6% of non-Indigenous Canadians. And we thought about reasons why Indigenous people might be underrepresented in STEM. And we thought about lack of opportunities, lack of support, role models, systemic barriers, historical inequities, etc. And can we have the next slide, Corree?
Sorry.
Sorry, there's a new slide. We haven't done this one before. In a very modest way with practically no funding, we just decided, you know what, we're going to do something. It's going to be small, but we're going to do something. And we thought about where we were when we were making big decisions about our lives. And both of us had experiences in high school that kind of pushed us in the directions that we took. So we thought, what about trying to reach out to Indigenous high school students before they have to make decisions about post-secondary and prerequisites that they need to take? And so we started this tiny program for Indigenous high school students in ICORD labs. This is a picture of our very first application form. We sent it out to all the local school boards, and we got exactly 1 response. Luckily, the student who applied was amazing. Her name was Eliana, and she was perfect for this, what turned into be a pilot project. She came in, she was game to try everything that we threw at her. She gave us lots of great feedback, which we've incorporated into the program. She ended up staying with us for 4 summers as a student, and then 2 more as an advisory panel member. And she is now working for the Indigenous Health Authority of British Columbia.
So a little bit of a overview about how the program works. So we target students that are currently in grade 9 to grade 12 and invite them to apply online. The application process for the students is not onerous. We don't ask for their transcripts or for their grades. They don't have to write a big long essay about, their dreams and aspirations of being a future scientist or doctor or anything like that, because those types of things can really be a barrier for some students. We try and just get information about what they're interested in. We ask them about their hobbies, what kind of things they might like to try, and to fill out some tick boxes and do some ranking of different areas of science that might be interested in that they might be interested in trying. At the same time, we invite research labs to submit project proposals. Again, also these project proposals are not particularly onerous. It's not like a CIHR or an NSERC grant. Basically, we get them to describe what a small project might be like for a student that's in high school over the summer. And I've got an example of a project proposal later, which I'll go through. We then have a matching party where we match the student applications to the research projects. And then we have pre-placement workshops over May and June, which is for both the students, where we get them to come in and we talk to them about what it's like to have a job. A lot of these students have never had any sort of a job before. So things like being on time and, what is appropriate workplace clothing and communication and how to work in a team, how to set up a bank account, how to get your SIN if you haven't had your a job before, maybe you don't have a social insurance number. We also provide cultural awareness training for supervisors, and then the students are hired for 6 weeks over the summer. Past summer, the dates were July 7th to August 15th, and they're paid for 25 hours a week. So program alumni can return as undergraduate research assistants for up to 4 months between May and August. And so they work much like any other summer undergrad. They don't have to be undergrad students at UBC. That can be at any post-secondary education. And then the key part of the program is that the students are paid. We didn't want this to be a program where only students who are privileged enough to be able to volunteer can, participate. And lots of students, for many reasons, need to work over the summers. So they're paid, and we also provide additional wraparound supports like bus passes and laptops for the summer if they need them. 1 day a week, the students are all together for group learning modules and activities. This happens on Mondays, so that's 5 hours of their 25 hours a week. So we get guest speakers to come in, we provide lunch on these days, and then we do different field trips and kind of fun activities. So this is an activity from last summer where we had an orthopedics group come in and teach the students about what casts are like. So they got to learn about kind of the chemical process that happens with the casting, and then they got to practice putting casts and on each other and taking them off. So that was a really fun activity. Here's another outing. This is from this past summer. This is the students that were in Kelowna at UBC Okanagan. They did a day field trip to the telescopes in Penticton. So we try and mix it up every year because we do have repeat students that come back year after year. So we don't want them to have to go the same field trips and activities every single year. And then on the very last day of the program, we have a poster celebration session. So as part of the program, on the Monday group activity days, we give the students short lectures about what it's like to put together a poster. And we kind of guide them through that process over the 6 weeks, as do their host labs. And then on the last day, they put together a poster about the research project that they worked on, or what they learned over the summer, and they can invite their friends and their families. Their teachers come, and it's meant to be a celebration of everything they learned. And the supervisors and all the lab members are, of course, welcome. It's not like a conference poster session with people being judged and stuff. It's really a really fun event.
So as Norma mentioned in the introduction, since 2018, we have successfully engaged 142 students with 112 faculty members in 40 departments These are at UBC Vancouver, UBC Okanagan, at hospital sites, at Simon Fraser University. It keeps growing and we keep expanding. Student engagement has increased over the years. So 2018, that's Eliana, our very first student. 2019, she came back and brought, there were a couple of other students from North Vancouver who joined us. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the program in 2020 because of COVID. 2021, we had kind of a hybrid. Some students were virtual, some students were on site. It wasn't the greatest summer, and none of the high school students actually came back from that year. In 2022, we expanded to UBC Okanagan. And as you can see, we have grown considerably. In 2023, we had 19 students and we thought we had a lot. And then that ballooned to 60 in 2024. And this past summer, we had 104 students. And that's a lot of teenagers to look after in one place, in case you were wondering. So again, as Corree mentioned, the program covers pre-placement training for students and supervisors, which includes chemistry, chemical and biosafety training for students that are working in wet labs, and general pre-employment training. We have the weekly learning modules and guest speakers, field trips. We cover the cost for all of these things. Wraparound supports like transit passes, PPE if the students need it. We have laptops available if students don't have access to one at home and the lab can't provide them with a desktop. We provide snacks and meals on Mondays. We have Indigenous support workers, youth support workers on staff in both Vancouver and Kelowna. So if students are having issues with things in their life that don't have to do with their placement, but are affecting their placement or their happiness over the summer, the support workers are there to help them. We also offer travel bursaries and homestay support to students from remote communities. So this past summer, we had 7 students coming to Vancouver from as far away as like northern British Columbia, from Vancouver Island. One student came from Alberta, and we were able to find homes for them to stay in while they were here and looked after their travel costs. And on top of all that, we also cover full or partial salary for the students. You might be wondering how much this costs. Well, the high school students cost $3,000 for the summer, and that includes their salary. They basically get paid for 25 hours a week at minimum wage, plus the cost of their wraparound supports, their transit passes, the cost to print their posters, their meals when they're here. So $3,000. We're estimating $3,250 for next summer just because everything's getting more expensive. And undergraduates are paid $12,500 for the whole summer. And all of the undergraduates were successful in getting some kind of scholarship or studentship funding. So the seed2STEM program wasn't paying that full $12,500. We were just paying a part of it. And then on top of the student cost, there's the cost for supervisors, time, and lab consumables, which up to now have been covered by the labs that are hosting the students.
So lots of support for the students, but also lots of support for the supervisors and the host labs that we provide. So we are available to help create project proposals, as you know. If you've never had a high school student in your lab for 6 weeks, and most university labs have not, you might not quite know where to start with that. So we can provide assistance with that. We do offer pre-placement training for the supervisors and all lab members. This is a 3-hour online Zoom session. It's online so that everyone from UBC Okanagan can join as well. And we partnered with somebody from UBC's Center for Teaching and Learning and Technology. She's the Indigenous education specialist there, and she's put together a workshop on trauma-informed youth support and how to things to be thinking about. We also give tips on supervision of high school students, as they are different than your keener undergrads that you might be used to. As Cheryl mentioned, we can offer full or partial salary support for the student salaries. If the labs have money, we will gladly take that, because then it means we can provide more spots for more students. We also have almost 24/7 on-call assistance from program staff, which includes Cheryl and myself, our program managers, program coordinators, and youth support workers during the placement period. Cheryl's an early bird, so she's usually up by like 6 a.m. and covers from then until like the afternoon. And then I'm a bit of a night owl, so I'm usually up until about midnight. So we've almost got the whole day covered. We're also working on putting together a toolkit for the supervisors and the host labs, which basically covers a lot of the stuff that we've been kind of doing ad hoc here and there. So that'll be a great package that we can then circulate to anyone who's interested in hosting a student. So you might be wondering what is involved in putting together a suitable project for a high school student. So we use an online Qualtrics form, and there's kind of different components to it. One of it is to tell us just about your research discipline. So there's all these different tick boxes that we've got trying to cover different fields that the students are interested in. And the students have similar categories on their application form, so they can also tick and rank the areas that they're most interested in. We also, in addition to the area of work, we want to know about the type of work. So would the student be, sitting in front of a computer programming? Are they going to be doing, hands-on research, engineering, where, they're building something? Are they going to be doing literature search because maybe they like reading, or they have a reading or reviewing related project? And then we ask the students to rank these exact same areas on their application, so we can get a sense for if somebody's, really likes writing and they'd love a literature research or review project, then we can help match them that way, compared to somebody who's like, I really want to build and kind of make things. Then we would put them in an engineering, or try to put them in an engineering focused lab. And then we ask the labs to put together a short project description, which is essentially just to describe your 6-week project in simple terms that a non-specialist could understand, because there's myself and Cheryl, and then our program coordinators and managers all have to kind of read these and understand them well enough to be able to match the students. Maximum is 500 words. They don't need to be nearly that long. A couple hundred words is good. And ask the labs to put some thought into what concepts or techniques the students will learn while they're on the project, how many students they might like to recruit, because we've learned over the last couple of years, actually having 2 students in a lab is really a great way for the students to lean on each other for peer support, and it's not quite so intimidating and scary to be in a lab as a high school student if you have a peer with you. And then we also ask if there's any animal experiments that are involved, because that's something that's important to know, because not all students are comfortable with that. So here's an example of a project description, a medical physics related project description from this past summer. This is from my colleague, Dr. Shannon Colin's lab. She's also an MR physicist. So our lab is focused on developing and applying MRI techniques to answer clinical questions. Much of our work is focused on multiple sclerosis, but also includes ALS, Alzheimer's, and depression. We're planning on to acquire quite a lot of data on our low field MRI scanner. So she has one of these portable low field MRI scanners that you can kind of wheel around. Over the summer, the student could shadow the data acquisition, including phantoms, or observing or possibly scanning fruit themselves under supervision, and research participants shadow only, people living with MS and controls, and then shadow neurologists for patient visits to understand the clinical impact of MS. So this is Christian here. He's the student that was placed in Dr. Colin's lab. He had just finished grade 9. And that's a picture of the poster that he made. And then the thing that he's holding in his hand is a phantom of a brain, so that he 3D printed. It's got these holes in the top, and you can put in different vials of different solutions. So he had an awesome time. So he's really keen to come back next summer. Oh, you're muted, Cheryl.
Sorry. Hopefully you're interested in seed2STEM, and maybe you're thinking about what would it take to start a program at McGill? So we're going to give you some tips. First of all, even though we were actually very disappointed to only have one student apply in our first year, it turned out to be the best thing for us because starting small gave us the chance to iron out a lot of kinks and to get feedback that we could then incorporate into future years. We would suggest starting a pilot with maybe 3 to 5 students for the first few years, just so you can give them a lot of support and check in with them and see how things are going. And also handpick the supervisors that the students are going to be placed with in the first few years, just so that the supervisors understand what they're getting into and are able to provide a supportive environment for the students.
So yeah, growing slowly. I mean, we didn't, our intention at the beginning was we did not have a grand plan that we want to grow slowly. It just kind of happened that way. But I think that's actually the best thing that could have possibly happened to us. Having time to kind of really, put a lot of thought into how we were doing things, how happy the students were, ironing out some of the bumps that Cheryl mentioned, really, I think has made the program as strong as it is. Each year we were able to tweak things a little bit, add extra bits and pieces here and there, form connections with the teachers who then told other teachers. And so slowly we built a network of really great people that we're able to work with. Originally it was just Cheryl and I doing this by ourselves. Then we had a part-time coordinator over the summer. We've now expanded to having a full-time program manager with likely a second person coming on almost at full-time. We've slowly expanded into including the support workers over the summers that are on call to be able to help with things. We created an advisory panel in 2022 when we realized that we needed more external support and advice and suggestions about how things were going. So really that's, I think, what has provided a good solid foundation for the program.
And then it's really important to nurture the people that you're working with. We're working with basically 4 groups. There's the students and their parents, guardians. They're trusting us to give them a great experience for the summer. Summer holidays are super valuable, and you don't want to waste it on something that's not going to give you something back. Teachers and educators are the ones that help us spread the word about the program to students in their schools. For a few years, it took, the teachers were like, oh, you're running a program, that's nice. And didn't really, I'm not sure if they didn't believe that we were going to succeed, or they weren't sure about what the program was all about and thought maybe we were using the students for free work. But after a while, they got to know us and we got to know them. And now we have a great relationship with basically 1 or 2 teachers in each one of the school districts. Researchers in the labs that are hosting students dedicate their time and their grad students' time to providing supervision and guidance for the seed2STEM students in the summer. Some of them are funding students out of their own grants or even making personal donations to cover the students. We need to make sure that they are feeling supported and have the resources that they need to give the students a good experience. They've also been instrumental in introducing us to their department head or their dean, and then we can go in and talk to the whole department and then get more people. So the students, teachers, researchers, and then the last group is advisors, which Corree mentioned. Sometimes we have sticky problems and need advice from students or parents or guardians or teachers. And so we founded this advisory panel in 2022. We report to them every year and tell them about what the program has been doing. They ask us questions. They help us with, issues that come up. They write letters for us when we're writing grant applications, and they've been invaluable. And with all these people, we discovered that it's really, really vitally important to keep really good records, keep good lists. And right now we have separate lists for everything, but that's getting out of control, and we're planning to set up a database this year before we have the next batch of students come in.
Yes, we definitely need a database. We currently use Google or Excel files basically to try and keep track of things. And with 104 students, it's a wild.
Getting out of control.
Yeah. I'll just mention the advisory panel consists of current and former students. We have a parent on there. We also have, sorry, 2 parents, yes. We have a member of the Verna J. Kirkness board, which is a national organization that provides opportunities for students to spend time 1 week over the summer at university labs, high school students. We have members of the community as well, and so really that advisory panel has helped us, tremendously in terms of our growth and our direction. The last thing we would kind of advise is it really important to be persistent. We've had to be persistent really continuously. I like to use the term personalized persistence because I have no problem sending personal emails or talking to people face to face about all the different things that we're looking for. Funding has been a big challenge. Initially, we really didn't have any money to run this program at all. It was only because of our director at ICORD at the time agreed to let Cheryl and myself use some money that was set aside in a small endowment to start this program and be able to offer the students salaries. So, but over time, now the word has gotten out. And so some of the departments are offering to fund students themselves. We've managed to get some grant funding. So we have Insert Promo Science, EBRO, which is the International Brain Research Organization, and then various entities around the Lower Mainland, Vancouver Coastal Health Research Institute, Provincial Health Services Authority, Children's Hospital, CDC, various organizations are now contributing. And so that's been really, again, a slow sort of thing. And we really had to be persistent and not get dejected when we were constantly being turned down for funding. Because one of the challenges was, we're at a university and we want to bring in high school students. So the university doesn't really care about high school students as much as you might think that they would or hope that they would. They care about undergrads. But then if you go to the community to try and get, funding for research or for programming, they're like, oh, well, you're at UBC. You have a big entity, already. You should ask UBC for money. So we're kind of in that situation, but managed to dig our way out.
And just to add, we've done all this stuff already. So if you wanted to start a program, you could point to our data. We have lots of resources that we can provide to you. So you don't have to start from scratch. So there's a few things that you need to consider if you're thinking about starting a program like this. Let me start off by saying, I'm extremely proud of what we've grown so far. It's Corree's passion project. It's also the best part of my job, but it does come with some challenges. We focus on Indigenous youth specifically because Indigenous people are underrepresented in STEM, and specifically in spinal cord injury, which is where we started. The applicants who are wanting to come might not have great marks. They might not have any experience in research or write a compelling essay or be able to afford doing an unpaid internship for the summer. They might not necessarily go on to STEM in the future, but through this program, they're getting a chance to gain really useful transferable skills. They're having a positive experience in STEM. So if they decide that they don't want to do it, it's not because they feel like, I don't belong there, I don't see anyone like myself there, it's not for me. They're choosing to do it because it's just not what they want to do. So they're making their own decision and they're not being forced out. Some students come in and they're very shy. They might not talk to anybody or ask any questions. And sometimes the supervisors think that they're not enjoying themselves or getting anything out of it, when really they've gotten used to staying quiet. That works for them. They haven't felt comfortable asking a lot of questions. So to cut them some slack. We have students who are dealing with emotional or physical trauma or food insecurity, and this can affect their punctuality, their attendance, so that's something that the supervisors need to understand. We lately have been dealing with managing supervisor expectations. Some of them think, oh, great, I'm going to get a free student assistant for the summer and I'll do like all these projects in my lab, when really like taking a seed2STEM student in your lab is more work, not less work for you. But it's also very rewarding. It takes a lot of energy. There were days in the summer where after spending the day doing stuff with the students, I came home and lay down on my bed and fell asleep without even taking my shoes off because I was just so wiped out. You have to ask for money a lot. And so you just got to get used to asking people for money, but it is 100% worth the effort. So we'll just end with this. As I mentioned at the beginning, we do land acknowledgements before our talks, and we read articles and we think about reconciliation, but this is a tangible way to address reconciliation, and it's having an effect.
So as part of the program, we do surveys. We do surveys at the beginning with the students, and then we do exit surveys after the 6 weeks. We also do surveys with the supervisors as well, so we can continue to get feedback and learn about what's working well, and areas we can improve, gaps, other new ideas that the students might have for future programming. And so this is a summary of our feedback from combined from 2023 and 2024. We're still in the midst of putting together our feedback from this past summer. But feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. So 100% of students felt accepted and respected. Between 94 and 95% of students felt included in lab activities and supported when they had questions and problems, that they learned new skills and techniques, and they thought that the program was a good use of their time. Last summer, 98% of the students said they planned to return this summer. We didn't quite get 98% coming back, but in Vancouver, it was almost 80%. And in Kelowna, it was about 50 or 60% of the students returned. So that was really exciting. And then here's just some quotes from some of the students. Iris, who started as a grade 10 student, she said, "I used to believe that a job in science was past my abilities, but this program inspired me to think about science as a career." So that was after her very first summer with us. She returned the following 2 years, including last year she came back with her little sister, and then they both returned this summer again. And so it's been really cool to see, their growth and evolution, and their increase in confidence. Nishaya, who's one of our remote students, said, "I came from 1,000 kilometers away and I definitely do not regret it. This is one of my biggest accomplishments. Being a researcher is my long-term goal." And even just things like, I actually really like chemistry. If you're in a situation where you're being forced to learn and you're being constantly tested and graded on things, that's a very different experience than being in a lab and getting to try things. And it's okay if you make a mistake or you don't know the right answer. So really lots of positive feedback from the students and also the supervisors. And so it's just some statistics. From all the students that have gone through the program, 39 of the high school graduates, so that have graduated from grade 12, 88% of them have gone on to enter post-secondary education, and then 76% of that 88% are in STEM fields. and many of them have said that participating in seed2STEM is a key influence in their educational choices. So this is Nishaya here. She's a student that I quoted in the previous slide, who came from Nuayet, which is a small town in northern BC. She was accepted to 3 different universities, and the experience that she had in seed2STEM was a key choice in her picking UBC. So she's just started at UBC, first year undergrad science, a couple of weeks ago.
And we threw this in just so that in case you're interested, most of the students that take part in the program live within commuting distance of either Vancouver or Kelowna, but they come from communities from across the country. And Corree mentioned this already, but we are very grateful for the support we've received from ICORD, Vancouver Coastal Health, Provincial Health Services Authority, many departments at UBC, NSERC Children's Hospital, BC Cancer, BC Center for Disease Control, the Javid Mohafagian Center for Brain Health, Gynecologic Cancer Institute, Simon Fraser University, Faculty of Science, and many small and sometimes large donations from individual faculty and private donors.
So, with that, we will conclude. We really appreciate you taking the time to invite us to speak to you about the program. We'd be happy to answer any questions. There's a QR code to the website, as well as mine and Cheryl's email addresses. So please contact us if you'd like to know more about the program, if you have specific questions, or if you want support and assistance and potentially starting something similar at your institution. So thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, it was muted. I didn't notice. Thank you very much, Cheryl and Corree, for this presentation. It's an incredible amount of work what you have done. It's very impressive, and I'm really happy to see that you're succeeding in something that you're so much passionate about it. And thank you very much for also offering your help if we want to start something similar here. For sure, we will have to start very small because, as you mentioned, there's a lot of challenges around this type of initiatives. But I also see how rewarding it is for you to see the results and the fruits of your what you have been doing. It's very fruitful. I don't know how to explain myself, but I think it's very, very impressive, very nice. I'm really happy to see your success in this initiative. It's amazing. And now I will just open the floor for if you have any questions here or at the Glen or at the Jewish General Hospital. Yes, Jorge.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the presentation. The best way that I can put it, it was inspiring. I have a couple of questions. The first one is that in the presentation, you had this very nice slide that show how the program has grown throughout the years. I was wondering, what has been the changes in terms of outreach efforts aimed towards the students? Have you, I don't know, change a little bit how you approach them, how you show them the program, or the growth has naturally occurred throughout the years?
Here, I'm just going to stop sharing so we can see everything a little bit better. I would say, and Cheryl might have a different answer, but I don't know if we have particularly done anything differently in terms of trying to target more people. It's really been largely word of mouth. The teachers who started with us early and saw the positive effect that it had on a very small number of students, then started encouraging more students to apply. And the teachers are all very well connected within the school districts and across school districts. So then they tell other teachers. We obviously did do some initial cold calls to various school districts to try and reach out to people when we were kind of in our earlier years. But at this point, we really haven't been advertising broadly to different school districts. We've already made those connections, but it just took some time to build slowly. We also I've received applications from students where we had no obvious connection to those school districts. That's been the remote students. So I don't know how, the student who came from Tumbler Ridge found out about the program. It was, word of mouth through some connection, but maybe Cheryl has something to add there.
We did actually have a story on CBC News
Oh, right. Yeah.
last year. And I think it actually just ran once in the morning because it was the same day that,
Something happened.
yes, a former prime minister died.
Yes, that's right.
Brian Mulroney. It was the same day that Brian Mulroney died. And so we obviously got preempted. But I guess some people heard that. And the other thing that I don't know if it's related or not, but we changed our name. So we originally were the ICORD Summer Research Program for Indigenous Youth. And we changed that to seed2STEM, which is clearly much cooler. I'm not sure if that had something to do with it, but I do think it's probably what Corree said, that, it just spreads by word of mouth, and somebody's friend or cousin had a great time and made money in the summer. So I think that's part of it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that is awesome because it speaks volumes regarding how much will there is from these young people to get involved in this type of programs, which is great. And maybe the second question is that, I really love this idea that you put out there that we want this program to have as little friction as possible for people to get involved. However, as the program grows, I imagine that the available spots get a little bit less available. So there is a balance between let's make this as less friction as possible and let's make sure that the spots are, available for everyone. So how have you been balancing this problem?
Go ahead, Cheryl.
We struggled with that.
Yeah.
So this summer was the first year that we had to turn anybody away. Up until last year, we were able to find placements for every student that applied, and we had enough funding to cover that with the labs that were supporting students directly. This year we had 140 applications, and we I don't know how many spreadsheets we looked at and how many labs we called to say, hey, can you take another student? Can you fund them? But in the end, we had to turn some students down. And the way that we decided was we tried to connect with the support workers at schools where maybe there were like 15 students that applied from one school. So we had calls with the support workers and said, okay, like of these 15 students, are there any that you would give priority to, or any that you might not? And, we learned things like, oh, this student is probably being pushed into this by their parents. They're really not interested in school. They don't show up. Or this student, this could be life-changing for them. So, it was really hard, really, really hard to turn people down. But we had to, unfortunately. And some of them, they were just, they were in grade 9 and we were able to say, please apply next year and we'll, give you your application priority. So it was tricky. And Corree and I had probably our first fight about how many people we could take. So yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like our current numbers, unless things change dramatically in terms of how we are organized and more staff and different type of structure, we're kind of at our max at this point. With the, just logistics wise, setting up all the student appointments. We didn't really talk about that. They're all appointed through Cheryl under ICORD. So it's not like each lab needs to worry about setting up their own student appointment. Like they just say, like, we just do it. And by we, I mean, it's Cheryl and the ICORD admin team. But even that is just like extremely time consuming. And then trying to take 60 students on a field trip. We had 60 students in Vancouver this summer. So imagine taking 60 teenagers on public transit and trying to make sure that they all get to, Microsoft downtown and they all get off at the right spot. We didn't lose anybody, but it was stressful.
It was scary. We did temporarily lose a couple, but they showed up. So
yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. I think there's a question from Eve. Eve, go ahead, please. So maybe I should read the question. Yeah. So he's thanking for the presentation, and it says Quebec's education system is structured a bit differently, and high school ends at secondary 5, which is equal to grade 11. Students then go to two-year college called CEGEP before going to the university, and CEGEP covers grade 12 and first-year university material, essentially. By the time they are in CEGEP, students have already started to specialize. So his question is, in terms of student age development and potential for impact, would you advise to aim a new program towards high schoolers up to secondary 5 or grade 11, or focus on the older CEGEP learners? That's his question.
I would say the high school students up to, secondary grade 11. And that's kind of where we started out with this whole thing, is we really, our first couple of years, we were grade 10 to 12. And then we got the next few years, we got some grade 9 applications, and then we kind of expanded it to include grade 9. Because, we wanted to give students the opportunity to experience STEM and what it could be like to work in a STEM environment in a positive, supportive way before they got to the point where they'd have to make, choices about prerequisite courses for university. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. I don't know if Cheryl, if you have a different.
But I think if students start the program when they're in high school and then they go on to CEGEP, then you would probably want to let those ones come back and continue their research experience.
Yeah.
And maybe also it will also help them choose which path in CEGEP they want to go, like if it's going to be more aligned with science and so on, or it's more going to be more, for example, business administration or something like this.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions here?
I will also just mention, we're using the word STEM, but STEM is extremely broad in terms of our definition. Like, we've had students working on public health related outreach, sort of type things, creating flyers about Indigenous women's health to go out to the communities. So it's not all like at a lab, working on cells at a microscope. There's definitely a broad range of what we, consider under the STEM umbrella.
Yes. Yeah, so that that will also help them shape which kind of path they want to choose. So it's a good, like, maybe they will, like, having an hands-on experience, for example, in a lab will help them to decide, is this what I want, or I will prefer to do more like epidemiological studies or more about health and things like that. So I think it's amazing. And I guess it's a lot of work also to find all the supervisors and contact all the different departments and have all the different projects. So I don't even know how you find the time to do all this, because it's a lot of work. To be honest, I don't know how. I just was like, my head was going like, oh my God, how do they do all that?
I don't think our bosses know how much time we spend on this, honestly.
No, it's like, I guess I don't sleep much. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions here and there? No questions. In the Zoom or at the Jewish, do you have any questions or comments that you would like to add? No, it seems that no. Okay.
And people can always reach out to us,
Yeah.
any point in time, and we'd be happy to have a separate Zoom with somebody if they want to
For
learn
sure,
more.
will
Like,
reach
we can do
out
that.
to you. For sure, we will reach out to you, because we want to start small, like as you recommended. So we want to start to do some outreach for example, at the high school level. So
Awesome.
that's what we will start doing, and try to find like small projects that the supervisors here at the medical physics unit can give to the students. And maybe in my case, I'm more in radiobiology, so some lab work as well. So we will start kind of slow, but yes, for sure, we will reach out to you in the next future. I know that now the Research Institute is having these initiatives of finding supervisors that would like to host Indigenous students. So that's also another way we can also collaborate with them. But I guess even I could put you in contact with the person who is doing that here. So if they have any questions, or I actually want to invite him also to share with us his experience. He's also working a lot with the Indigenous populations, not only from Canada, but from Latin America, where he is from. So I think it will be very
Cool.
nice to also collaborate with you. I think it will. Yeah, thank you very
Awesome.
much for the presentation. It was amazing. And congratulations for all the hard work. And I'm very happy to see the fruit of all the hard work, the successful. Yeah. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thanks
Thank
for
you very
joining us.
much. Have a great weekend.
You too. Have a nice afternoon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.